Well, hello everyone. I'm Parina, and I was born and raised in India and raised by my grandparents. So their involvement in my life is very profound. And so I'm going to be sharing some of the teaching I learned from my grandfather and some fun fact about my grandfather as well. I'm grateful to be here, and I start attending this place with my wonderful partner, Christo. And I just feel like part of the home here. Like I've been looking for a place to be, and once I start coming here, it felt like I'm back at home with my own community. So thank you so much, making me feel home. So yeah, my topic is mindful anger, and you may wonder why this interesting topic. Well, it is interesting to me because I grew up in a household with my father having such a bad temper. You never know what you're gonna run into when you come home from school. You know he's getting angry when you start seeing his eyes turning red. Either you kind of hide somewhere in a house, or you just not get in his way. You just say, yes, Dad, I will do it, whatever he asks for it. Either it was getting your homework done or going to go to the stall and buying a tobacco for him, which is kind of unusual for girls to do in India. So it was kind of like a very difficult childhood growing up with having a father which have a lot of anger issues. You just kind of go along with him, whatever he asks you to do. But then on the other hand, my grandfather, totally different person. And that was my father's father. And he was a totally different person, very grounded, peaceful, spiritual person. He will read a lot of stories from Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana with me whenever we're sitting around. He will also kind of use every moment we have, thing happens in the house to kind of help us to understand from the spiritual side of it, so we don't act back at the same way at the anger. There was a time where my dad will get really upset with me, and I'm like, I just want angry at him, like I get that. And then my grandfather will look at me, hold my hand and say, if you do the same thing, how you are different from him? And that always stuck to me. So anytime if I'm in a situation, I feel like, oh, I just want to get back at that person. And then I'm like, no, because if I do that, I'm the same person as they are. They hurt me, I'm hurting back to them. So that always been the way my grandfather taught me the value of the human life and just how we live our life. The fun fact about my grandfather, he had worked along with Mahatma Gandhi during the freedom fight. And so that was just amazing to know that person I'm living with has so much understanding about the freedom fight and what we went through, and working with Mahatma Gandhi alongside to understand his own teaching. So not just reading from the book, but he has interaction with him. And so that's the teaching he will bring home and taught us when we were growing up. And it has a totally different impact on us than just reading a book. So anger is such an interesting emotion, I will call it. So like if you have to define anger, what it is, I will call it is an emotion. It's a powerful emotion. It depends on how you use it, because it can come from such a variance experience you have from home, type of families you grew up with it, you see that, and you grew up with it, that's what you learn. Sometimes injustice happens to you in a life, and you just like filled in all that injustice within you and trying to figure it out, how I'm gonna process this. It's kind of like boiling a kettle for the tea. You just let the heat go, it gets to the point, it's gonna burst if you do not let the steam out. But the thing is, how are you gonna let that steam out? How are you gonna let that anger out? And there's a positive way to do it than the negative way to do it. So anger is also like a very complex emotion as well. We talk about anger, but if you look at the anger itself, it can have so many other underlying issues, emotions to it. Either could be pain. You had a pain throughout, like physical pain. and your tolerance level is just low. Anything can make you irritated, anything make you angry. You can have some of alienation, like you just feel like you don't belong to anything. You're just part of not the family, you're part of the community, and then you just have that alienation kind of builds into that anger because you don't know how to deal with it. So there's so many other underlying emotions which also comes out as anger. So when we start going to therapy or talking to the person or going to the spiritual journey, we start working on those different our alienations, all those emotions, but we're going to work on the anger as well because those are the root cause. Anger is a symptom, so you have to work together to get rid of the anger or feeling of anger. So when I talk about my grandfather and Mahatma Gandhi, they both compare anger as such a powerful force. Mahatma Gandhi always used anger as electricity or fuel. Like you need to have the fuel or the electricity. You can harness the change throughout it, like putting the fuel in a car. It will take you from one place to the another place if you use correctly. But if you misuse, you can blow up in a fire. My grandfather used the same analogy, but he will use a fire. He's like, kind of like a matchbox or like using the match. You start the fire, if you light the candle, you can illuminate the house, the community, villages. But if you use the misuse of the fire, you can burn down anything comes along the way. You can have the forest fire. You can have anything you can do with that small spark of fire. So anger, I will say, is a similar way. How do you define and how you use it? At this point, I'm going to talk about the story which I'm going to read. My grandfather used to read this to me. It's called The Boy Who Learned to Control His Anger. And it's very interesting because I just picked up this story yesterday. I did not know our spirit song, and it matches so well with each other. That's one thing I like about coming here is like everybody doing differently, but somehow everything just comes together. So the story calls The Boy Who Learned to Control His Anger. Once there was a boy who had a bad temper. One day, his father gave him a bag of nails and told him that every time he lost his temper, he must hammer a nail into the back of the fence while chanting, repeating God's name. The boy carefully followed his father's instruction, and on the very first day, had driven 37 nails to the fence. Over the next many weeks, every time he got angry, he started chanting and went to hammer a nail into the fence. Even though his anger made it difficult to drive the nails steadily, after some time, the boy discovered that chanting made it easier for him to control his anger and hammer those nails into the fence properly. Soon, he realized that he was chanting even when he was not angry. As his chanting increased, his anger started to reduce, and so did the number of nails hammered into the fence. Finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper unnecessarily and could chant peacefully for many hours a day, even while doing other activities. He told his father about this, and the father suggested that the boy should now pull out one nail from the fence for each day that he did not get angry. The days passed, and the young boy was finally able to tell his father that all the nails were gone, like there's no nail left in the fence. He was excited about it. The father then took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. He said, "You have done very well, my son. Now look at the holes in the fence. The fence will never be the same." Many times we do things with the incorrect attitude, like being angry, impatient, without realizing the result of our actions. We often hurt other people physically or verbally, but do not realize that the wound we cause, like the holes in the fence, they don't go away just like saying sorry or apologizing or going out for a lunch. So always depend on chanting. It will help you remove any defects, just it helps to remove your anger. That's the power of God's name. Here it kind of says chanting, but any spiritual activities will help you to kind of control that type of anger or any defects you feel like it you need to control. So the moral of the story, unmanaged anger can lead to the explosive outburst, harming both ourselves and others. Words spoken in anger can leave lasting emotional wounds, much like the cracks in the broken glass that never fully heal. The story kind of mentions about the fence, but I use the broken glass because that was how always my grandfather will use it for me. Like you can have a broken glass, shattered, you can have any super glue or any glue you can find to put together. It's never gonna look the same, or it's never gonna have the same feel to it. And so you always ask, think before you say something to somebody. Are you saying it because you are angry, or are you saying it because that's how you feel? So having that pause really helps you to kind of understand what the next word is going to come out and how it's going to affect the other person. So we talk about the anger, the emotion, what it is, but the question is, how do we control it? Because we need a solution to anything we have. So one of the things, mindful anger management involves recognizing the triggers. So you got to understand what is triggering you. We all have a trauma from childhood or our adult life or anything we go through in our life, work, just road rage sometime. And you got to just try to understand what is triggering to behave that way. And once you figure it out, that's our first step. Once we figure out what the trigger is, then you kind of able to work through that trigger to make it more solution, and you're not just resolving the symptoms. Because when you resolve the symptom, the root cause always gonna be there. And you're gonna keep repeating the same cycle or same mistakes. So the second step is a technique. We talk about the anger, we know what it is, we know that could cause a lot of destruction. How do you manage it? So meditation, deep breathing, seeking support from others can effectively help you. For me personally, as book says, chanting, and that's what I have been doing from the childhood, because one of the things I always looked at, like, I do not want to have anger like my father. That was the thing. Like, what I lived through, I do not want to make anybody else live through that type of life with me. Either it's my partner, my children, my friends, anybody, because I do not want to be that person with the fence has a holes in it where I don't have any more friends around me or people. I start pushing the loved ones away from me. So for me, I use chanting. My biggest thing is I use kind of like my japmala. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, for me it's just like going through like my chanting, and then by the time I'm done with 108, I forgot what I was angry about. And in the meantime, I got so much into chanting, I just continued chanting. It feels good at the time. I try to do that with my kids too. Like, I will have them, like when they were little, get kind of frustrated. I have twins, and they kind of get into each other's nerves a lot sometimes. And so I will tell them to just, okay, let's sit down, hold each other's hands, and we'll just like say, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, like kind of like that to them. And by the time, they just forgot what they were angry about or disturbed with each other. So in a conclusion, I just want to say anger is real, complex emotions. While we recognize its capacity, if we channel it positively, we can make a societal change like Gandhi did. Like, he had change with his non-violence. We got the freedom in India. One of the things Gandhi did, which I am very grateful for it to be here for, because that was something in India, was when the boy is born, is very important in a family because it carries out family name. But when there is a girl born, it's a liability in a family. So a lot of family, when they have multiple girls in a family, as soon as the daughter born, they will pour the boiling milk in her mouth. So that's how the baby will die. And Mahatma Gandhi stopped that. So if without him, I would not be alive. So I'm definitely very, very grateful for his fighting for the nonviolence and so many other things he has done for our country and for the humanity itself. So effective anger management is crucial, maintaining healthy relationship and promoting well-being. And I'm very, very grateful to be here today and share these profound stories of my grandfather and Mahatma Gandhi. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. It means a lot to me. I lost my grandfather when I was 12, but I feel like he's always with me. Even though such a short time I had with him, he had made a huge, huge impact on my life. Because of him, who am I today? Just having these lessons, giving to my kids, sharing with my partner. Sometimes we just sit around like, if my grandfather was here, he will say this, or he will say that. So yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to kind of end my talk with the reading a prayer from Mahatma Gandhi. He used to speak this prayer every day at his ashram. And I was so lucky to have this special book called the M.K. Gandhi's Wits and Wisdom by his grandson, Arun Gandhi. And it's such a rare copy, and somebody special got for me. Thank you. And it has autographed in it. Like, this is something I saw at the museum, and I was like, I can never afford this. So this is such an amazing gift for me, and I'm truly grateful for that person in my life. So Gandhi's prayer. May God protect us. May He support us. May we make joint progress. May our studies be fruitful. May we never harbor ill will against one another. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.